Hello everyone, and welcome to a game of World of Warships. Today's replay is from Admiral Kutuzov, and he is in Yamato, 10 Japanese battleship. He is on the map Warriors Path in a free-point domination game. There is only one destroyer per team, and there is a carrier. But there is a slight problem. The friendly destroyer seems to be AFK. Well, maybe he has a good reason for that, maybe he has just internet troubles or whatever, but unfortunately none of this helps the friendly team because that destroyer was found by the carrier, and that carrier will just torpedo a sitting destroyer that, like, the friendly carrier is trying desperately to defend the DD. But if the destroyer isn't moving, there is nothing that can save him. So, that's not so nice. Now here on this flank, it seems somebody, like the enemy team has, I think, about one more ship here on this flank. We have an Alaska that's trying to actually take the camp here. We will see how that works. I mean, he has some solid cover behind this island, and if they can't interrupt him, then he should just be able to grab this cap, which is nice, because let's face it, the friendlies won't get C. The friendly team already lost the cruiser there, over there, and they don't have radar now. That gearing can just sit there and cap, and if the carrier comes in, the gearing can just smoke, so there is no way for the friendlies to stop that gearing. I guess they could just charge in. Oh, and nice citadel here from our Yamato. Now I guess the friendly team could just try to push C with the Kurfürst Hydro. But there is still quite a few enemies around, so that's questionable if that would yield any positive results. So meanwhile here we've almost got the A cap, but the Chambard seems to be sailing into the cap, and that means he is contesting. And he arrived unfortunately just in time to stop the friendlies from actually getting A. Now the friendlies don't really have that much firepower here, so the Chambard can just easily get away with it. The Alaska also doesn't have torps, it's not like he has to fear anything like that, actually he can just keep on pushing. Now the biggest threat to the Chambard is, well, Admiral Kutuzov here is in the Yamato, because if the Chambard pushes here broadside in front of the Yamato guns, then he'll probably just get spanked off. At the same time, if this Chambard actually pushes in further, then Admiral Kutuzov might end up in a crossfire between the Yamato and the Chambard, which isn't so nice either. And it looks like the enemy team finally got a firing angle on the Alaska, so that Alaska lost all of her nice capture progress. Also, the way he's currently reversing, he's probably getting spanked by Chambard pretty soon. Now this situation is not ideal. We'll see how it turns out. Now how is the health situation here? Massachusetts is still pretty healthy. I mean, Massachusetts is an excellent brawler. And this is a situation where he could try to get into secondary range. Now what would have been a bit nicer if the Massachusetts was maybe like in the free line. The problem is the Massachusetts gets very close here to the Yamato, and this means that they won't create crossfires themselves. Like if that Massachusetts was in the free line, he could do a lot more against this Chambard. If he was like close to these islands, he might even still have some cover, could maybe get some secondaries against the Chambard. Maybe some nice hits if the Chambard is trying to angle against the Yamato. Crossfires can be very helpful, but I guess it's in human nature to wanna stick close to ally ships and to feel like if you're helping if you're close to an ally. But oftentimes helping an ally can just mean being a few kilometers to the side just to get better firing angles. But anyway, the enemy Salem is going down quite nicely here, which is good. And what's also good, by the way, is like the enemy Montana. If the enemy Montana was actually pushing here more towards the 1 line, and yes, I'm saying it would be a good play for a battleship to push towards the 1 line. Sounds crazy, I know. But if he was doing that, then he would like make it a lot harder for Admiral Kutuzov here. Because then the Yamato could get better firing angles, right? But the Montana is actually pushing where all of the other enemy ships are, and therefore basically making it a lot easier for Admiral Kutuzov to angle against them. Now the carrier is also getting in on the fun, and Admiral Kutuzov is currently flooding here. But, well, with the current flooding mechanics, flooding that you can't damage con isn't the end of the world, thankfully. So that's the good news, I guess. Now the Massachusetts is now aggressively pushing in. All friendly cruiser escorts here have already been taken care of, unfortunately. And, well, the other side of the map doesn't look very good either. Now, we have a Hipper who is trying to take B, we have an Iowa who is abandoning everyone and running away, we have a Chambard who is pushing in without any support. Well, I mean, he still has the Sao, I guess. The Sao probably just trying to get in for some long-range kiting there, which is what he's good at. And, well, here we still have the Chambard and the Montana to deal with. Now, Admiral Kutuzov already dealt quite a bit of damage, didn't really get the kill yet. That might soon change. Now, once again, he has, like, the Montana and the Chambard to think about when angling. And the Yamato has just some very well-known weak spots, as you just saw, like, he got basically citadel through the cheek here. The very vulnerable spots that everyone knows about, but if he angles too much against the Chambard, then the Montana can do the same thing. But as you see, the Montana is so nice, like the Montana is actually making it easier for Kutuzov to angle. The Montana is really just giving up all the advantage he has angle-wise and trying to get closer to the Chambard. Oh, that looks like a nice dispersion. And, well, 4 pence. Yamato can obviously just overmatch. If the Yamato is allowed to keep his weak spots angled, then he can just, like, if the Yamato can sit nose in and just overmatch the enemy and happily farm them. Admiral Kutuzov is on very low health, but the carrier is coming in here to help a little bit. And now there is only the Montana, so Admiral Kutuzov can angle quite nicely and hopefully use his powerful guns. Honestly, I think I'd aim a little bit more in the front there. Well, that was 4 bounces. Didn't expect them to bounce, but turns out the enemy was angled better than expected. Now heal is almost ready, and now he goes more for a nose shot here. And that worked quite nicely. Once again, we see that Yamato's guns are still amazing. Well, if they hit, I suppose. Now, unfortunately, elsewhere on the map, it's looking pretty desperate. The Sao is still kiting, which is, well, good, but the carry is also coming for him. And yeah, Montana has been dealt with. Now, Sao is still kiting away here. The Iowa, well, I mean, I feel like the Iowa should have stayed closer to that Sao and helped more at the sea cap, especially when there was still a battleship pushing, maybe even try to push with him. Yeah. Now Admiral Kutuzov on the bright side has some broadside shots against those enemies. They are pretty far away though, so there will be a lot of RNG involved in those salvos. You can also sail into A now and maybe actually take the A cap. Like, I mean, the friendlies are also in desperate need of points. The enemy team thankfully isn't very close to 1,000, so there is still some time left. Now, Admiral Kutuzov taking A would be a start, but in order to come back, they need to sink quite a few ships. Probably soon. Now, so far, RNG isn't that great. Like, I mean, if he'd gotten very lucky, he could have potentially devastated the Musashi there, but at long ranges, it's always a bit of a gamble what happens, I guess. So we also have the enemy carrier spotted. We have the gearing spotted, and there is a Confederate. Now the carrier will probably try to take down the gearing, I would assume, which would be helpful if he succeeds. But I mean that Gearing has the Musashi and the St. Louis to provide some additional anti-air. And well, here comes the enemy carrier. Now the enemy carrier, well, I mean, Admiral Kutuzov is on his own here. So he's the most, well, the easiest target to damage. He's also trying to cap, so the carrier can interrupt him, which is probably added benefit for the enemy. And this is looking really desperate here. Now, Kutuzov still has some broadsides to shoot at, so let's hope this doesn't look too bad. And there is one citadel, but one citadel was not enough. Now maybe the carrier can finish this off. And that was a pretty big hit, wasn't it? So next salvo should hopefully deal with the St. Louis. And Admiral Kutuzov is on very low health. There is barely any healable damage. It's also a problem because even if that heal was ready now, sure if it would do much. Well, there goes the St. Louis. Now Admiral Kutuzov is trying to get a little bit closer towards that mountain to hopefully maybe find some cover. Then again, I mean, it won't help against the carrier now, will it? And let's see. Try to shoot that Montana. Maybe I can try to shoot the Gearing next. I mean, if he gets a good salvo against the Gearing, but heal is almost ready, but as I said, barely any healable damage. Might still help, and that's a loss. I guess that ending wasn't a big surprise. So Admiral Kutuzov earned himself 1960 base experience in a defeat. Almost 2000. Just wasn't enough now, was it? He earned himself a Confederate and a high caliber, scoring 293,000 points of damage, sinking 3 enemies. But you can't win them all, unfortunately. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed watching this, and I'll see you guys next time.